So when I was a kid, one of the coolest things in the world to me was going out to the desert and off-roading. And I'll be completely honest, like when I was like 7 to 12, I couldn't care less about it because I was sitting in the passenger seat, I was sitting in the trunk, like it was hella boring. Like we're out there for hours at a time, but then all of a sudden, I'm 13, 14, and my grandpa lets me drive his Silverado out to the dunes and back. And that's kind of where everything changed. Like, that was the coolest thing that I had ever done in my life, was driving this Silverado out to the dunes. It was some terrain, like sandy terrain, a little more clapped out than what you see here. And it's out in the Mojave Desert, out in like Afton, Basin, Razor, that area. And my grandpa and his buddies, they went a couple times every winter. And, my mom would take me out once a year and he would let me drive because he got to, chill in the passenger seat, drink Bud Lights. So life is good for both of us. I'm having the time of my life. He's having the time of his life. We're hanging out. And that's kind of where my love for off-road started. And then, at 16, I end up with a 4x4 Nissan Xterra, and I'm the luckiest kid on the planet because, that thing, I drove the wheels off of that thing. Where I grew up, there was a lot of development going on. And so they were grading roads, they were creating roads, they were creating lots. And me and my buddies, we would go out, a couple of them had Tacomas and, one of them had another Nissan whatever, and we would just go out and try and slide around corners. We try and the lots are uneven elevation, so we try to climb the hills between the lots, and we had a blast out there. We got into trouble. We were places we shouldn't have been. We were on fire roads, just doing dumb kid stuff. And we eventually ended up starting to go out to the same area that my grandpa and his buddies would camp at, and through college and stuff, we'd go out there and off-road and get stuck. We'd be out in the rain in the middle of the night, just super stuck, trying to figure out how to get out. And the only recovery gear we had was a shovel and a tow strap. And so, we got into plenty of trouble, but we never had anything really bad happen. So that was good. Didn't really break any parts. It was mostly just like, how do I get out of this mud hole? Or how do I get out of this wherever, fill in the blank. But, after college, started working full time and had my own place and responsibilities. So the off-roading kind of dropped off until my trusty Xterra started to take a shit. And, it was clicking and popping and whistling, and I took it into the dealership and they quoted me like $8,000 to fix this thing. And I think I was 23 at the time, and I was like, that is crazy. The Kelly Blue Book value on this thing is only $6,000. So, didn't really know what to do. So I started looking online, and I found this two-door JK, 2011 JK at CarMax. And I was like, well, what's the worst that can happen? They said for free, they'll transfer this car to my local store, and I can come check it out, and they'll take a value on my car and everything. And they actually were going to offer me over Blue Book value. And that, I was just sold. At 23, I was like, hell yeah, I cannot let this pass. I can have this cool Jeep. They're going to give me more money and I don't have to deal with a private party. Let's do it. So I went home. I did the whole 3 for free financing thing. I was like, all right, yeah, I have 3 days to change my mind. And there was no way I was going to change my mind after driving that thing home. The only thing that sucked about it was I was kind of spoiled by the Nissan Xterra. It was the SE model. And if you don't know about the SE model, it has an 8-inch sub under the driver's seat. And that is the best 8-inch sub you will ever hear in your life. And 2011 JK, and no offense, Chrysler sound systems in general, especially on sport models, not so good. So that's where I did my first automotive modifications, if you will, was putting subs in this thing. And then I was like, well, I have this Jeep, and it's supposed to be more capable than my Xterra was, and my grandpa invited me out to the desert again, so Let's rip all of that out. Let's sell it. Let's get some 33s and a coil spacer up front in this thing. So that's exactly what I did. And as soon as I did that, it was like maybe the next week, one of my coworkers, Robbie, shout out to Robbie, says, "Hey, your Jeep is actually looking kind of cool now. How about you come out rock crawling with us?" And I was like, wow, that sounds really fun. I thought I was a hot shot because I've been doing all this wheeling with my buddies, and I'd been, out on the rocks in Sedona with my grandpa, but I'd never driven. I'd always been, a shotgun or in the back seat or whatever. So first rock crawling trip was out to Pinyon Mountain with my coworker Robbie and all of his buddies. And I learned a lot. I had never actually had to use 4 low before. And I remember coming up to the first ledge in 4 high. And I mean, all right, everyone's going to give me shit because I did the same thing not too long ago because I forgot. But, you can't really crawl over a ledge in 4 high. And so, did my first 4 low, actual crawl. And that was really kind of mind-blowing. And Pinyon Mountain's cool. You do the squeeze, Heart Attack Hill, which is pretty scary if you haven't done anything like that before. I mean, I'd been down some pretty steep stuff in my grandpa's Chevy Scottsdale, but that's a totally different experience riding passenger than actually driving it. It's depending on the day, it's scarier being one versus the other, but at least when you're a passenger as a kid and it's your grandpa, you kind of have faith that he knows what he's doing versus driving and being like, oh my God, I'm way out of my league right now. But kind of caught the bug after that. And I was like, all right, let's get this coil spacer out of here. Let's go legit. Let's get a TerraFlex 2.5-inch lift kit. And a real testament to TerraFlex and their instructions is that I had no clue what I was doing and I didn't mess it up, because I watched all of their videos and I read the instructions, and I went to Harbor Freight. I bought a jack stand. I bought jack stands. I still have the same jack in the back of my car. Now it just has the high lift extension on it because, balling on portals and 40s now. But I still have a lot of those same tools. And I did that first install in the parking lot at my apartment, which was right next to a freeway, and it was raining. So I did it in the section of the parking lot, which was under a freeway overpass, and didn't mess it up. So that was pretty sweet. And, that allowed me to go out and, I actually trimmed my fenders, so I wasn't popping fenders off anymore. And, I could articulate, ended up getting 35s. Thought I was so smart for having 15-inch wheels because everything was cheap for 15s, but it turns out the industry was going to 17s and everyone's just clearing out inventory. So, I ended up running my 35s into the ground. And, so that's kind of how I got into Jeeping. And, simultaneously, I'm just listening to every Jeep video I can possibly find while I'm at work, and I'm modeling off-road stuff in off hours. I'm an engineer, so I use SolidWorks every day. So, all right, I don't know how a differential works. I'm going to just model it and see how it works. I don't know how a hub works. I'm going to look it up, model it. And, that's kind of how I started to figure out how things work and tried to understand it. And, after literally years of doing that, and even moving to Orange County because everywhere I wanted to work was up there, ended up getting a job opportunity at Dynatrack, which was huge. That was the most difficult job I've ever gotten because, going from being an enthusiast to now you're responsible for making people's axles work is a big change. And it's different from just modeling something or, working on your car in the driveway to, all right, now we got to make 30 of this thing. We got to make 100 of this thing. And they all have to work. And, someone called in, their axle from 2003 broke. We haven't made a Kingpin in 15 years, but figure it out. That kind of stuff. But ended up getting to do a lot of cool projects there. Prior to that, I had been working on in defense, in measurement equipment. So, I worked in medical device. So I had some injection molding experience, but doing castings was a new thing. Just learning all the different automotive standards, like what is typical, what kind of material. It's totally different material sets than any of the other industries that I worked in. So that was definitely a learning experience, but I'm super grateful to Jim for giving me that opportunity. And eventually, so did that for a couple of years, and all of a sudden I start getting all these DMs of an Instagram post saying 74 Weld is looking for an engineer. And all I knew about 74 Weld at the time was that they made race car portals. That's it. I was like, I can't find much information on these guys, but wanted to move to San Diego anyway with my wife. And so, applied for the job and ended up talking to Quinn. And after a couple of interviews, he was like, hey, do you want to come and put portals on your Jeep? And I was like, yeah. And so I started at the end of September, early October in 2021. And then February 2023, I had portals on this Jeep and I'm driving out to King of the Hammers. And it only got more difficult from there. Like, don't think that if you can do something once, you can do it 6 times or 20 times. It's actually manufacturing at scale. And you can't even really call it volume relative to other industries where you're doing like hundreds of thousands. But jumping from 1 to 20 and doing it without pulling your hair out is a big task. And we're scaling, we're getting shit done, but I'm super pumped about it. And my whole point for this story is, I have all these videos. So I got a 360 camera about a year ago, haven't done anything with the video, and strung together these clips from Trail Hero 2023. And I was like, it's crazy that this is my job. And so I was trying to think about, I want to do some kind of stream of knowledge, stream of consciousness or contemporaneous notes. And, I can be like, oh, well, Trail Hero 2023 out in Hurricane, Utah. But really, to me, the impactful thing about watching these videos is how I ended up with this as my job, which can be a pain in the ass and a slog at times. But at the end of the day, I'm infinitely grateful